Sam liked peace and space. That was why he bought his ranch years ago. It was not just any ranch. His land came with a wide green field, a small wooden cabin, and most important of all, a quiet lake that sparkled under the sun. The lake was his favorite place. He would sit near the water in the evening and listen to the sound of birds. Sometimes he went fishing, and sometimes he just looked at the calm waves. Sam had worked hard to buy this ranch. He had saved for years, skipped many things he wanted, and finally bought this place with his own money. For him, the lake was not just water. It was a piece of his life. It gave him calm and reminded him of why he worked so hard. But things started to change when a new group of people moved into the nearby houses. Those houses were part of a neighborhood with its own homeowners association, often called the HOA. The president of the HOA was a woman named Linda. Linda was known in the area for being strict and bossy. She liked control, and she liked when others followed her rules. One bright Saturday morning, Sam was fixing the fence near his cabin when he saw Linda walking toward him. She was not alone. 2 men and 1 woman followed her. They were dressed as if they were ready for a party. Sam put down his tools and greeted them with a calm voice. "Good morning," Sam said. Linda smiled, but it was not a warm smile. "Good morning, Sam. I need you to unlock your cabin by the lake. I have guests who want to use it today." Sam frowned. "I am sorry, but the cabin is mine. It is not for rent. I don't allow guests inside." Linda tilted her head as if she could not believe his answer. "Sam, maybe you don't understand. The people in our neighborhood want access to the lake and the cabin. They think it would be perfect for weekend gatherings. As HOA president, I am asking you to open it. It will be good for the community." Sam stayed calm. "Linda, I understand your words, but this is private property. The cabin and the lake belong to me. They are not part of your HOA. You cannot decide how they are used." The guests behind Linda whispered to each other. Some looked annoyed. Linda crossed her arms and raised her voice a little. "Sam, you may live near us, but you must learn to work with the community. If you refuse, you will create problems. Nobody wants that." Sam stood tall. "I am not refusing kindness. I am refusing to give up what is mine. This lake is not a community pool. This is my ranch, and I will keep it that way." The air grew tense. Birds that had been chirping near the water flew away as if they felt the change. Linda's face turned red. She had never been told no so directly. The guests shifted their feet, waiting to see what she would do. Finally, Linda said in a sharp tone, "You are making a mistake. People will not like this. They will say you are selfish. They will not support you." Sam looked her straight in the eyes. "I am not here for people's support. I am here for peace. If anyone wants to visit, they can knock politely and I will decide. But no one can force me to open my cabin." For a moment, silence filled the place. Then Linda turned on her heels and started walking back toward the road. Her guests followed her, but one of them glanced back at Sam with a mix of curiosity and respect. Sam picked up his tools again, but he knew this was not over. Linda was not the type to let things go. He could already feel trouble building, like dark clouds before a storm. The lake water moved gently, but to Sam it looked as if it was warning him. In that quiet moment, Sam told himself one thing. He would stand firm. The lake was his, the cabin was his, and no HOA president could take that away. The morning after the meeting with Linda, Sam woke up early. The sun was rising over the lake, painting the water in soft gold. He brewed coffee in the small cabin kitchen and stepped outside with his mug. The air was cool, and the silence of the ranch made him feel at peace. Still, his mind kept going back to Linda's words. He knew her type. People like Linda did not stop when told no. She had made it clear she wanted the cabin open for her neighbors and guests. Sam wondered what her next move would be. Later that day, Sam drove into town for supplies. At the small grocery store, he noticed two men from the neighborhood talking near the entrance. When he walked past them, he caught a few words. One of them said, "He owns the lake, but he acts like it belongs only to him." Sam did not stop. He picked up flour, coffee beans, and some tools he needed. But he could feel their eyes on him as he walked around the store. By the time he paid and left, he was sure Linda had already spoken to others. The whispers had started. When he returned to the ranch, he found a note pinned to his gate. The paper was folded neatly, but the words inside were sharp. "Sam, the community expects you to share the lake. We are planning an event soon, and the cabin is the best place for it. Please open it before this becomes a bigger issue." There was no signature, but Sam did not need one. The style of the note, the careful but commanding tone, had Linda's mark all over it. Sam took a deep breath. He placed the note in his pocket and walked down to the water. The lake reflected the sky, calm and endless, as if reminding him of its true owner. He knelt by the shore, letting the cool water pass through his fingers. The lake had been here long before Linda and her HOA. It would remain long after them too. That evening, Sam's friend Paul came by. Paul lived a few miles away, not part of the HOA community. He was an older man, kind and straightforward. When he saw Sam, he gave a small smile. "I heard some talk in town," Paul said. "Looks like Linda is stirring trouble already." Sam nodded. "She wants the cabin for her guests. I refused. Now she's trying to turn people against me." Paul sat on the porch steps and looked at the lake. "I know her type. She likes control. But here's the truth, she has no legal right over your ranch. The land, the cabin, and the lake belong to you. Don't let her pressure you. She may shout and gather people, but law is on your side." Sam felt a bit lighter hearing that. Still, he knew Paul was right about one thing: Linda would not stop shouting. The next day, the situation grew louder. As Sam repaired the barn roof, he heard voices near the road. A group of neighbors had gathered. They were pointing toward his ranch, some shaking their heads. Linda stood at the center, speaking with passion. Though Sam could not hear every word, he caught phrases like selfish, community, and unfair. Sam climbed down the ladder and walked closer, but not too close. Linda saw him and raised her voice. "There he is," she said, pointing at him. "The man who thinks he owns nature itself. The man who refuses to share with his neighbors. Ask him yourselves why he locks his cabin while families look for a place to gather." All eyes turned to Sam. For a moment, the group was silent, waiting for his answer. Sam spoke in a steady tone. "This is my ranch. I bought it with my hard work. The cabin and the lake are not part of your HOA. I respect all of you, but respect must go both ways. No one can force me to unlock what belongs to me." Some in the crowd frowned, but others looked unsure. A few even lowered their eyes, as if they understood his side. Linda, however, would not back down. "You will regret this," she said loudly. when the community stands together, you will be alone. Sam did not reply. He simply turned back toward his cabin, leaving the crowd behind. His heart was steady, but he could feel the weight of the coming storm. That night, as he sat by the window and watched the moonlight touch the lake, Sam knew the conflict had only begun. Linda was gathering her forces, but he had something stronger. He had truth, law, and the will to protect his peace. The lake shimmered under the moon, silent but loyal, reminding him of the fight ahead. 2 days passed after the gathering at the road, but Sam knew things would not stay quiet for long. He woke up early and walked down to the lake with a fishing rod. The mist was still floating over the water, and the morning air carried the smell of pine. For a moment, he forgot about Linda and her HOA. The calm waves reminded him why he had chosen this place in the first place. As he cast his line, he noticed movement near the far side of the lake. A small group of people was walking along the shore. They were not on his property, but their eyes kept turning toward his cabin. Sam knew they were curious. Linda must have told them stories about the lake and the cabin, making it sound like a community treasure being hidden away by one stubborn man. Later in the afternoon, Sam received a letter in the mail. This one was not pinned to his gate but delivered properly. The letterhead carried the HOA's name. The words inside were formal, but their meaning was clear. Dear Mr. Sam, the Homeowners Association requests access to your cabin and lake for community events. Refusal to comply will create unnecessary tension between you and your neighbors. We ask you to reconsider for the good of all. Sam read the letter twice and then placed it on the table. He was not surprised. This was Linda's style, make it look official, even when she had no authority. Sam knew the HOA had no control over his ranch. His land was outside their boundaries, and the lake was listed clearly in his property papers. Still, he felt the weight of their pressure. That evening, Paul came by again. He noticed the letter on the table and read it with a frown. They're trying to scare you, Paul said. But don't let this paper fool you. It has no power. They can't force you. If they try, you'll have the law on your side. Sam nodded. I know. But Linda is not after law. She's after influence. She wants people to see me as the enemy. Paul sighed. Then you need to show them the truth. If you stay silent, she'll fill their ears with her version. The next day, Sam decided to act. He invited a few neighbors he trusted to visit the ranch. He showed them the cabin, the lake, and the papers proving his ownership. He explained why the cabin was personal to him, how he had built parts of it by hand, and how the lake was the reason he bought the ranch. Some of the neighbors listened with open minds. A woman named Anna said softly, I did not know this was your private property. Linda made it sound like it belonged to everyone. Now I see why you want to protect it. Sam thanked her. I respect my neighbors, but I also respect hard work. This place was not handed to me. I saved for years to buy it. If I let go of it now, what was all that for? Word of this small gathering spread quickly. Some neighbors began to question Linda. Why had she told them the lake was part of the community when it clearly was not? Linda noticed this doubt, and it made her more restless. By Friday afternoon, Sam was working on his porch when he heard footsteps again. This time Linda herself walked up, without guests. Her face was tight with anger. You think you are clever, she said. You invite people here, show them your side, and try to make me look wrong. But let me remind you, I am the HOA president. I speak for the community. Sam stood calmly. You may speak for your neighborhood, but you do not speak for my land. This ranch is not under your rules. Linda's eyes flashed. You cannot stand against all of us. If you keep this up, we will take action. You will regret pushing people away. Sam did not raise his voice. I am not pushing anyone away. I am only guarding what is mine. If you want peace, you can have it. If you want conflict, then you will be the one who starts it. The silence stretched between them. The lake water moved slowly behind Sam, as if echoing his steady voice. Finally, Linda turned without another word and walked off quickly. Sam knew this was not her last visit. He could feel a storm building in her pride. But for now, he was ready. He had shown the truth to some, and he would stand firm against the rest. As the sun went down, the sky turned orange, and the lake glowed with the last light of day. Sam promised himself once again he would not let anyone take away what he had worked for. The weekend came, and with it came noise. On Saturday morning, Sam woke up to the sound of cars parking along the road near his ranch. When he stepped onto the porch, he saw a group of families setting up chairs and tables on the grass just outside his fence. Children were running around, and adults were unloading food and coolers. At the center of it all stood Linda, directing people like a commander. Sam watched quietly for a while. They had not stepped onto his property yet, but it was clear what they planned. They wanted to use the lake. The crowd grew larger, and soon Sam heard laughter and music. He walked down to the gate and waited. Sure enough, Linda approached, holding a clipboard in one hand. "Good morning, Sam," she said in a voice that sounded sweet but carried sharp edges. "As you can see, we are having a community event today. The families are excited to enjoy the lake. Please unlock the cabin so they can use the restroom and set up inside." Sam kept his voice calm. "Linda, this is my property. I cannot allow the cabin or the lake to be used for your event. You did not ask for permission. You just showed up." Linda raised her chin. "We are not harming anything. The lake is nature. It belongs to everyone. And as HOA president, I have the right to guide community activities." Sam shook his head. "The lake on this ranch is not public. It is on my land. My papers are clear. You may have power in your neighborhood, but you have none here." By then, several neighbors had gathered behind Linda. They were watching closely, waiting to see who would give in. Some looked uneasy, others eager for a conflict. One man from the group spoke up. "Come on, Sam, what's the harm in letting the kids swim? It's just one day." Sam replied firmly, "If I say yes today, it will not be just one day. It will be every weekend, and then every holiday. This is my home, not a park." The crowd murmured. Linda's face tightened. She did not like losing ground in front of others. "Fine," she said at last. "If you insist on being difficult, we will stay outside the fence. We don't need your cabin." Sam stepped back slowly, keeping an eye on them. He knew the families would try to use the lake anyway. Sure enough, within an hour, children were splashing in the water, and parents were cheering them on. Sam stood near the fence, his arms crossed. He did not stop them, but he knew they were crossing a line. Later in the day, Paul arrived. He parked his truck near the cabin and walked up to Sam. "What's going on here?" Paul asked, looking at the crowd. "Linda decided to host a party at the edge of the ranch," Sam said. "They are using the lake without permission." Paul frowned. That's trespassing if they step onto your land. Even if they stay just outside the fence, it's still pressure. She wants you to break and give in. Sam sighed. I will not give in, but I don't want a fight in front of children either. The two men stood together, watching. As evening came, the families packed up, but Linda did not leave quietly. She marched up to the gate once more. You embarrassed yourself today, she said. Everyone saw how stubborn you are. They enjoyed the lake without you. You cannot stop people from nature. Sam answered steadily, you enjoyed the day because I allowed peace. Do not mistake that for weakness. If you cross into my land again, I will take action. Remember, Linda, law does not stand on your side here. For the first time, Linda hesitated. She was not used to being challenged so directly. She opened her mouth as if to argue but closed it again. With a sharp turn, she walked away to join the others. That night, Sam and Paul sat on the porch, looking at the moonlit water. Paul spoke first. She won't stop here. She will push harder. Be ready, Sam. Sam nodded. I know. But no matter how hard she pushes, this lake will not slip from my hands. I will stand until the end. The lake reflected the stars, calm yet strong, like the silent promise Sam carried in his heart. The following week began with quiet mornings. Sam repaired his barn roof, checked the fences, and fished at the lake as usual. For a short time, it felt like things had settled. But Sam knew it was only the calm before another storm. On Wednesday afternoon, a white envelope arrived in his mailbox. Unlike the earlier letter, this one had bold red words across the top, Notice of Violation. Sam opened it carefully and read. Dear Mr. Sam, you are in violation of community expectations by denying access to common resources. Failure to comply will result in further action. Sam let out a long breath. He folded the paper neatly and placed it on the table. It was clear Linda was trying to make the HOA sound like a court. But Sam was no fool. He understood the difference between a notice with real authority and a piece of paper designed to scare him. That evening, Paul stopped by again. When Sam showed him the letter, Paul chuckled. This is just theater, Paul said. She has no right to issue such a notice. She's bluffing, hoping you'll give up. Sam nodded. I know it's a bluff. But the problem is, others might believe it's real. If more neighbors think I'm breaking rules, the pressure will grow. Paul leaned back in his chair. Then it's time you show them proof. Let them see with their own eyes that this land and lake are truly yours. The next morning, Sam drove into town. He went to the county office and requested copies of his property records. The clerk stamped the papers and handed them over. The documents clearly showed the lake and cabin within Sam's boundaries, far outside the HOA's reach. Armed with the papers, Sam returned to the ranch. That afternoon, he invited a handful of neighbors to visit again. Some came with doubt in their eyes, others with curiosity. Sam spread the documents on the porch table. These are the official records, Sam explained. The lake is on my land. The cabin is mine. The HOA has no say here. One neighbor, an older man named George, studied the papers carefully. So Linda was not telling us the truth, he muttered. Another woman looked uneasy. She said you were blocking a public space. But this clearly shows it is not public at all. Sam nodded. I am not against friendship. I am against being forced to hand over what I worked for. If someone asks kindly, I may allow them to visit. but no one will ever control my land against my will. The neighbors exchanged glances. Some seemed convinced. Others still looked unsure, as if they feared Linda more than they trusted Sam. Later that day, Linda herself arrived. She walked up the path quickly, her face tight with anger. The neighbors who were still present stepped aside, sensing another clash. "So this is your little show," Linda said, pointing at the papers. "You think a few documents will erase the community's needs? Let me remind you, Sam, the HOA has rules, and you cannot hide from them." Sam stood steady. "These are not just papers. They are legal proof. Your HOA does not control this ranch. The lake is mine, and no notice you send will change that." Linda's voice rose. "You are dividing the community. You are making enemies where you could make friends." Sam replied firmly, "I am protecting what is mine. If you call that making enemies, then so be it. But I will not bend." The silence that followed was heavy. The neighbors who had doubted him now saw the truth. Some nodded quietly, while others whispered among themselves. Finally, George spoke up. "Linda, he's right. The documents are clear. We can't demand what isn't ours." Linda's eyes widened. She looked around, seeing her influence slipping. With a sharp turn, she stormed away, leaving the group in silence. As the sun set, Sam rolled up the papers and placed them back inside. He knew Linda would not give up so easily. But for the first time, he felt the balance shifting. She was losing the unquestioned support she once had. That night, sitting by the cabin window, Sam looked out at the lake. The water shone silver under the moon. He felt a quiet strength rise within him. Linda could bluff, shout, and threaten, but the truth was steady, like the lake itself. And truth was on his side. Days passed quietly after Sam showed the neighbors his property papers. Some had begun to respect his stance, while others still kept their distance, unsure whether to side with him or Linda. For Sam, the silence felt uneasy. He had learned that Linda never stayed silent for long. His guess proved right on Saturday morning. Sam was preparing to paint the porch railing when he noticed movement near the road. A long line of cars arrived, one after another, and soon nearly 24 people were gathered outside his gate. They carried picnic baskets, coolers, and even folding tents. At the center of it all, as always, was Linda. Sam set down his brush and walked toward the gate. He kept his steps steady, though his chest tightened at the sight of so many people. "Good morning, Sam," Linda called out, her voice carrying across the crowd. "We are here for our lake festival. The community has voted. The cabin will be used for the event today." Sam frowned. "Linda, you cannot vote on something that does not belong to you. My land is not your property. My cabin is not a community hall." Linda smiled sharply. "The people have spoken. Look around you, Sam. Dozens of families are here. Will you deny them joy? Will you lock yourself inside while children stand outside the gate?" The crowd murmured. Some looked at Sam with pleading eyes, but others looked at him with open challenge. Sam raised his voice so all could hear. "This is private land. I will not unlock the cabin. You are free to enjoy your day outside the fence, but no one will cross this gate." Linda stepped forward, her face red. "Then you leave us no choice. We will show you that the community is stronger than one man." She turned and waved her hand. At once, a group of men moved toward the gate. Sam's heart pounded. He tightened his grip on the wooden post, ready to stand his ground. But before they could touch the gate, Paul's truck rolled up the dirt road. Paul parked right beside the fence and stepped out, his face stern. "What's going on here?" he asked loudly. Linda shot him a sharp look. "This is community business. Stay out of it." Paul crossed his arms. "This is Sam's ranch. That makes it Sam's business. And if you're planning to cross his gate, that's trespassing. You might want to think carefully about that." The men near the gate froze. They glanced at each other, unsure. Sam took a step forward. "Linda, if you and your neighbors want to enjoy the lake, you can ask kindly. But you will not force your way in. The law is clear, and so am I. The cabin stays locked." A heavy silence hung in the air. Some children tugged at their parents' sleeves, sensing the tension. A few families began to whisper and slowly step back toward their cars. One woman in the crowd spoke up. "Linda, maybe we should not push this. If it's his property, we can't just take it." Another man nodded. "We came for a good time, not a fight." Linda turned, her eyes flashing. "Don't you see? If we let him win, we lose everything. Today it's the cabin, tomorrow it's the whole lake. He cannot wall off what belongs to all." But her words did not carry the same power as before. Too many people had seen Sam's papers, too many had begun to doubt her. Slowly, one by one, families packed their things and left. Within half an hour, the large crowd had shrunk to only a handful of loyal followers standing at Linda's side. Sam watched quietly. He did not gloat, but he felt relief wash over him. Linda, however, was furious. She glared at him, her voice shaking. "You think this is over, Sam? You think a few papers and a stubborn fence can stop me? You will regret standing against me." Without waiting for an answer, she marched back to her car. The last of her group followed her, their steps heavy with frustration. When the road grew quiet again, Paul turned to Sam. "She's losing ground. People are starting to see the truth. But mark my words, Sam, she won't give up. She'll make one last move." Sam looked at the lake, its calm surface reflecting the late afternoon sun. He knew Paul was right. Linda had tried letters, gatherings, and now a show of force. If she was planning one last move, it would be bold. Sam took a deep breath. "Let her come. I will stand. This lake is mine, and no storm she brings will change that." The water rippled gently in the breeze, as if standing with him, silent and strong. The week after Linda's failed attempt felt tense but quiet. Sam spent his mornings by the lake, repairing fences, tending the garden, and making sure his property was secure. The lake reflected the sun, calm and unchanging, like a promise of peace. But Sam knew the quiet would not last. Linda was a storm waiting to break. On Friday morning, Sam noticed a black SUV parked along the road near the entrance. Linda stepped out, alone this time. Her expression was serious, and there was a quiet confidence in her walk. She carried a folder, as if she planned to present some final proof against him. Sam approached the gate slowly, keeping his voice calm. "Good morning, Linda. Can I help you?" Linda smiled tightly. "Sam, I came one last time. I brought all the rules, notices, and community votes. I want to resolve this before it gets worse." Sam nodded. "I've seen your notices. I respect your role in the neighborhood, but none of it applies to my property. The cabin, the lake, and this land are mine. Nothing you bring can change that. Linda opened her folder and held up sheets of paper. The community believes you are being unreasonable. Families want to enjoy the lake. They think it should be shared. I want you to see that your refusal is causing anger and division. Sam took a step closer, his voice steady. Linda, I respect families and neighbors. But the lake and cabin are not public. You cannot force me to hand over what is mine. I will listen, I will talk, and I will welcome visitors if asked kindly, but no pressure will change my decision. Linda paused, looking at him. For the first time, she seemed uncertain. She had prepared this moment to overwhelm him with rules and votes, but Sam's calm and firm tone left her without a clear answer. Behind her, a few neighbors began to gather, curious about the conversation. Some whispered quietly to each other, and Sam noticed more than one nodding in agreement with him. Linda clenched her fists. You think you are standing alone, but soon everyone will turn against you. You cannot block what the community wants forever. Sam held her gaze. I am not standing alone. I have the truth, I have proof, and I have my rights. People may choose to visit or not, but I will not let anyone take what belongs to me unfairly. The neighbors murmured, and one man stepped forward. Linda, he's right. This land is clearly his. We cannot force him. We have to respect that. Another neighbor, a woman named Anna, spoke softly. I came before, unsure. But now I understand. Sam is fair, he just wants his home and lake to remain private. That is reasonable. Linda's face tightened, and for a moment, she looked like she might argue again. But then she saw the crowd no longer supported her side. Her attempts to rally the neighborhood had lost power. Sam took a slow breath. Linda, you may leave now. The lake, the cabin, and this ranch are peaceful places. If you respect that, everyone will be safe and happy. If not, conflict will grow, and no one benefits. Linda looked at him one last time. Her pride was wounded, and her plan had failed. Without another word, she closed her folder and turned. Her steps were quick, and the black SUV drove away down the dirt road. The remaining neighbors quietly dispersed, leaving Sam standing by the gate, calm and steady. Sam walked to the lake, feeling the soft breeze on his face. The water glimmered in the late afternoon sun, reflecting the trees and sky. He knelt at the edge and dipped his hand in, watching the ripples spread. The lake, silent and loyal, had witnessed another victory not won by force, but by truth and patience. Paul arrived later, smiling as he leaned against the porch railing. Looks like peace is finally yours, he said. Sam smiled, but he kept his eyes on the water. It is, for now. She may return in other ways, but this lake is mine. And I will always protect it. As evening settled over the ranch, the golden light painted the lake like fire. Sam felt a quiet satisfaction. He had faced threats, pressure, and manipulation, yet he had stayed firm. His cabin, his lake, and his land were safe. More importantly, he had done it with patience, truth, and calm courage. The wind rustled through the trees, the water reflected the stars, and Sam knew one thing with certainty: this lake was his sanctuary, and no one could take that away. He sat back on the porch, watching the night settle in, and finally allowed himself to feel fully at peace.